Welcome back. Well, let's get the latest on the issue of rural safety. The Agri Securitas Trust Fund was first established to help farming communities safeguard farmers, workers and operations by working with the police. The fund has disbursed more than 16 million rand. It comes from donations from the private sector. Joined now by Kobus Visser from the Agri Securitas Trust Fund. They're disbursing more money. Kobus, good afternoon to you and thank you for your time. You're disbursing more money. What are you expecting this money to be spent on?
Good evening, Stephen. Most of the requests that we received from the 22 farmer associations were for the installation of camera systems or the expansion of those systems because according to the reports that we have received from our local farming communities, they are to be the most successful method of deterring and tracking of suspects in a farmer association area. And these systems are covering large parts of our country and especially the rural areas. And a good example of the success of these cameras can be found in the Eastern Cape, where these camera systems in a period of 1 year have monitored over 14 million number plates through that period of 1 year. And those farmers have received requests from the police in more than 560 cases to provide them information from the camera systems to try and solve crimes. And in that period, they achieved about 80 successes in arresting suspects or suspected suspects involved in crimes in rural areas and in urban areas.
The issue of rural safety and safety on farms has been an issue for a long time. Do you believe it's getting worse, or is there any hope that it's getting better?
Well, the reports that we receive is that in terms of stock theft, there's an increase in the number of stock theft cases, but many of those cases are not reported to the police. Then in terms of property-related crimes, such as the theft of infrastructure, the theft of tools and equipment, that's on an increase, and it's a huge burden for farmers at this present moment.
Kobus, in the conversations I've had and watched and seen with rural communities, there are two things that come through. The one is that often from the communities around the workers, people in township areas, people who live on farms, there's a real sense of anger towards the farmers, and there's obviously a racial dimension to this. And then from the farmers, there's often a real sense of fear. How much of the crime that we see in rural areas is a result of this really very, very difficult relationship between farmers and farm workers and the communities around them?
At this stage, I think one must rely on evidence from research, and I don't think there has been significant research being done on this issue. As far as we know, our members have a very good relationship with their farming communities, and there's a relationship in terms of looking at one another and looking at one another's security. Because if you look at also the implementation of the security systems around farmer associations, that also have effect on the farmers, workers and their families. So it also protects the farm worker and their families. So I think one must be careful to exaggerate and say that's a phenomenon around the country, because I doubt that it to be, because as I said, I think the relationship among farmers and their communities at present are very well at this time.
Thank you very much indeed. From the Agri Securitas Trust Fund, Kobus Visser.